Charlottesville Inside Out is made possible thanks in part to its patrons, committed to supporting the people, places, and quality of life that uniquely define Charlottesville and its surroundings, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Children's development and babies' development is such a critical time, and that can be very much for the positive or it can be the negative.
It's a very enlightening experience, this kind of cross-cultural musical exchange.
For WHTJ, I'm Terry Allard, and this is Charlottesville Inside Out.
Shall I play? So I am not from this area. I'm actually from Atlanta, Georgia. My brother and I are here on vacation. When I looked up things to do, this came up and I definitely wanted to be a part of it.
In 2000, a pair of classically trained musicians from our community decided they wanted to give back to the town that had supported their passion and gift for music. Join us today as we sit down with Tim Summers and Raphael Bell, co-founders and directors of the Charlottesville Chamber Music Festival. Come on.
Well, when we were growing up, there was a festival here that was hosted by the Monticello Trio, which were a trio in residence. And I remember feeling like it seemed like such a great thing that they could bring their musical friends, the people they went to school with, they could bring them here to Charlottesville and make great music. And it was a time when all of a sudden there were lots of concerts in a short amount of time. And it was great as a youngster to get to go to those concerts.
So you both have incredibly impressive musical careers. Let's start by talking about what you were doing when you were not coordinating and performing here for the festival. Tim, what are you up to?
Well, I live in Berlin, and there I live with my wife and son, and that's most of what we do in Berlin. And aside from that, I teach at the University of the Arts in Berlin.
But you also perform in
indeed.
yeah,
of course.
More. Come on, this is what I want.
Oh no, that was just my life in Berlin. Yeah, and then of course there's a huge amount of touring with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, and so there's really a huge amount of diplomatic music making going on there. It's a really nice group, kind of a new model for what an orchestra can be.
So what are you up to when you're not here?
So I live in Antwerp, Belgium. I'm the principal cello in the symphony there. And I used to play in Mahler Chamber Orchestra for 15 years. And Tim's lucky because his wife also plays in the orchestra, so they can tour and travel together.
Oh, that is
But
great.
if I wanted to have a bit more of a domestic life, my girlfriend is also a violinist, and she played in another touring orchestra called the Chamber Orchestra of Europe. And so one of us needed to find a bit more of a steady job in a fixed place. So music takes us around the world.
I enjoy chamber music a lot, but I particularly enjoy the one here in Charlottesville. It's a nice story with the two leaders, coming back to do this.
The community support has been very great, and the musicians like to come here. The music just couldn't be better.
You both were at Charlottesville High School, and you both went to Juilliard, and you came back in 2000 and you started this festival.
I was living in Charlottesville and actually working in making software, but still playing a lot, doing more improvisation type things. And Rafe came back and said, "Do you think we could put on a festival here?" And I thought, "Yeah, I think we can do that." And it all seemed very hasty. And then it was at the Jefferson Theater, which at that time smelled different than it does now. And
That's great.
and
had not been renovated. I love
Yeah.
that. What a great, that you just took a lot of us back.
yeah, and then the concerts were really good.
At the beginning, it was mostly friends from New York that we'd been in school with, or some that we knew from summer camps and when we were in high school. We found a very welcoming community. There are people who've been helping the festival from the very beginning who are still incredible and so supportive.
You've done it as a team for all these years, but
Yeah.
now you're trying something a little new, right?
Yeah.
Okay, explain that.
Well, I mean, we are both on the road so much, and I think that although you can communicate instantly all the time, that doesn't really mean you're always communicating. And things were getting kind of slow, and it seemed like now it would be a little easier or more streamlined if we sort of traded and one was in support one time and one more forward. So we're trying it that way, and we may or may not continue it that way, but it gives you also a good perspective on what you can and can't do, what you have been depending on, and so we're working now like that.
It means each one, if one has a strong feeling about what they want to do, we can follow through with it.
Yeah.
And before, the compromise has always been actually really fruitful, and we both bring different qualities to the festival. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's interesting, and this year Tim has really pursued creating an Asia theme.
When you play an instrument, when you make music together, you start to develop a very strong bond between each other, and you really get to know the person. It stretches out to the audience members too. I'm showing them some part of me, which is very, very personal, and they take away whatever they want to take away from the experience, and I think that's really powerful.
Music is a language with no words, and it often communicates a certain feeling or mood or things that cannot be communicated with language.
I will be playing a solo vibraphone piece by a local composer, Brian Samalchik. And then the other piece with percussion by Alex Christie, who is another local composer, has lights. So there's sort of a expansion of the sound world into the visual world through these lights that turn on and off as we perform.
It's nice to find opportunities and spaces where you can go in kind of crazy directions in a concert, and where the audience will come without only with the expectation to be surprised and enchanted, and not the expectation just to hear Mozart and Schubert, and which are very, very dear to me. But it's wonderful to go in, to have a space, to have a kind of an evening where you can have a beer and you can listen and you can go on a trip. You're going to hear the pipa tonight. You're going to hear a Bach partita tonight. You're going to hear wild percussion pieces.
Electronics.
You're going to hear aria played on the cello. So there's a big variety, and we've been really happy with this format to make a concert like this where we can let our imaginations wander.
And classical music concerts are often very heavily framed. You think like it's going to be this and that, this and this, formalized. And this is a situation where you can just talk to your friends and say, what have you been doing lately? What are you interested in? What brings your interest? And those things tend to be interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the music that gets played on this concert might in other situations be on sort of a contemporary music concert. But when they come here, I feel it's more like, let's take a walk through the Centre Pompidou. We're going to see a lot of crazy stuff, and some of it which we're going to remember for a long time, some of which we really like, some of which we really don't like.
That's great.
But you're just open because you're going to go on a nice trip, and the audience always hears things that they're totally surprised by and love, and then they might not like everything, but you're open for this experience.
Well, and you have concerts all over the community.
Yeah.
You're at PVCC, you're at the Paramount, you're at Live Arts, you're at Old Cabell Hall. And so you're doing something a little different at every concert. And then you also have an educational piece that started out in the classroom, right? For maybe, I think it's third graders, and it's grown so large that now they have to all be bused to you.
Right. Yeah, it's nice. This is the first year I think we've had a group that young, and I'm glad I have a third grader of my own to model that on.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's going to change lives for people.
I hope so.
Well, I remember
you see something.
when there would be music that would come in and there'd be concerts in schools or people, when we all had to choose an instrument in elementary school here for the music program when I was 10. And the year before, I think they all came in and they demonstrated, and I remember that. And you remember the concerts that they played and the impact of the different performers. So I hope that we offer something that will inspire the kids to make music themselves.
You have people here, you have a base here that kind of keeps this rolling every year, and some of the other nuts and bolts that need to be tweaked in financing, making sure it can happen, right?
It's an incredible amount of help, and I'm really grateful that they have faith in its role in the community, and because it's not something I'm always here to reinforce and experience, and I think it's really quite incredible, and that level of support and consistency has been there for so long.
You all work with and know people who play all around the world, and you bring them here. How fun is that to basically just call up all your friends and say, come on and play here?
Yeah.
Or is it difficult?
It's difficult, but it's a way for us to also stay in touch with our friends who live in faraway places that we love to play with,
Is it easier to put it together from afar because you're out there, then it's baffling to me that you're not here, and that this is a very big, well-attended festival. Is it easier to put together this festival, or?
It doesn't make it easier to put together, but it makes it possible to, we hear different things. We see something where somewhere in another festival, and it's like, oh wow, that piece was incredible, I want to do that,
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of experiences. We go to such a variety of concerts all around the world, and meet different musicians that every once in a while there's one that we think, okay, that we need to bring back to Charlottesville.
So send us off with a note about Charlottesville. What's it like? You're all over the world,
Yeah.
and here you are once or twice a year. You still love it?
It still feels like home.
Yeah, it's definitely home.
Yeah.
Charlottesville's a great food town.
Yeah.
Musicians love festivals where there's good food. You remember your good times, and they're often shared, over the table.
It's sort of like when you fall in love, you just know that you were in love, and you can't really describe it in words or concepts.
And you'll come away hearing things you've never heard before, even if it's a piece you have heard before.
So this has been so far beyond my expectations. I'm so blown away.
I was so young. I was trying to graduate high school and take care of Noah and make these complicated relationships work. And I was also in foster care, and they were a huge support for me at that time.
A family like yours, because we're going to talk about families today.
When they trust you enough to invite you into their home, into that intimate space, they're also going to trust you enough to share their real concerns. And it really helps to build a level of trust with a family.
Today we're going to learn about an organization that partners with families to promote the health and well-being of kids in our community. Join us as we talk with John Nefziger, Executive Director for the Jefferson Area Children's Health Improvement Program. Come on.
We're working with families one at a time, but in the course of a year, we work with 550 to 570 kids. And we do that work in the home. So we have registered nurses and family support workers that go out and work individually with each family based on what their goals for their children and families are and what their specific family needs are.
Give us an example of some of the programs that take place in the home.
For pregnant moms, we're talking about what to expect and nutrition and all the things that she needs to know leading up to the birth. We do a well baby check within the first 2 weeks. We're not taking the place of a doctor,
Right,
but
right.
providing additional support. So we do regular developmental screenings, which tell us whether the child is on track or not. And if not, say gross motor skills, whatever that is, we can bring in resources at the next visits to focus on that and see if we can catch the child up. In some cases, it may be a more serious delay, and then we'll refer out to a community partner.
And talk about why it's so important to work in the home. Rather, there are a lot of reasons why it's easier and more beneficial to go to them rather than to have them come to you.
There are a lot of reasons. I mean, transportation is a huge one. A lot of our families don't have any kind of regular transportation, so getting out to appointments and services is a real challenge. But beyond that, it's just a very different atmosphere to be able to build trust with the family and to build a positive relationship. I mean, we are going in to be whatever support that family needs. Particularly in the area of health, our nurses do a tremendous amount of health education. And we have some families with children that have come out of the NICU or have really demanding health needs. So that's a piece of it, but then we also do that around parenting. And we really believe that trusting relationship is how change happens. I mean, telling somebody you need to change, you need to do better, is very different than walking alongside them and providing that support.
Well, and you also, your approach is coming from a positive angle rather than saying, this, you're not doing this right. You're focusing on the strengths and you're building from that. That's a big philosophy
Absolutely,
of yours.
yes. We are strength-based and going, and all families have strengths. And that again is that change happens by identifying those and reinforcing them and helping families, helping build that bond between babies and new moms and dads, and that attachment and helping them move forward.
And if you have a child with serious health issues, you all help navigate that world, and that can be so overwhelming.
That can be, that can be several appointments a week. And again, for families with transportation struggles, most of our families are working as well. So, again, as parents and people that have been involved with young kids know, it's just a big challenge.
Yeah.
But it is also the stage of life where a little bit of support can go such a long way.
These are actually models of what baby bottle tooth decay looks like. So when we have parents who are putting their kids to bed with a bottle of milk, maybe they know that it's not the recommended thing to do, but we can actually show them, here's what happens. Look at how these teeth decay over time when you do that.
I think becoming a parent is a scary thing for even us as adults that have it semi-together. But imagine being a teenager. There's childcare you have to set up. There is your education you have to worry about. There are those basic needs you have to make sure it gets met. So just helping the family really be the best parent they can be.
Who makes up a team?
So a team for us is made up of 3 people, well, 3 or 4, but the parent or parents.
Okay.
A registered nurse who's a community health nurse and experienced with health education, and a family support worker. Our family support workers are trained in a national parenting curriculum and are very knowledgeable about community resources. So really focused on both the parenting piece and connecting families to other resources that can help them.
So is there an average length of the program? How long does it last, and do you graduate? How does it work?
It can vary a lot. Our average time is close to 2 years, so we're building long-term relationships with families. Some of them are much longer than that. We have families that come back sometimes as well, so it can be a whole process. But it's really, we individualize it to each family, and really one of the most wonderful parts of the work we do and working with parents is with the teen parents that we have.
Yeah.
And when you see a teenager that has managed both to build a really good relationship with their child and be a good parent and get through high school, the future looks so bright for them, and it's really a wonderful thing.
Well, I know you have many success stories, and once a year you all will have an awards dinner, and you'll focus on a handful of 3 families perhaps that have just really done well in the program. Talk about that.
Yeah, our Imagine Awards, they're so wonderful, and we do a short film of each family. Those are up on our website. Folks can see them, but to really honor and recognize the family and have them there, They have the chance to talk, some do, some prefer not to, but really to acknowledge both the astounding hard work it takes. And again, this is, for any parent, but for families that may have struggles with housing, struggles with income, lots of other challenges. And the stories are just remarkable. And I still, I've seen most of these videos 10 or 20 times, and they're still just amazing. They're just astounding stories. And so it's for recognition of the family, but also to say how important to our community these families are.
Right.
I mean, to recognize that they really are raising the kids that are going to be our future, and their efforts are so important.
Chip helped me with pretty much every obstacle that I had.
Good job. I think that's about a cup.
I gained self-confidence because I didn't have that back then. Like, I was like more naive and gullible, and more like basically letting people walk over me. But since I met her, it's like I found a part of myself.
Todos los rojos.
Si Chip no hubiera estado con nosotros, pienso que hubiera sido mucho más difícil de lo que fue.
I think Mom made me more optimistic and really changed the way I do my job because she didn't let this syndrome hold her child back.
Some of your families are new to the country. They're new to the language, and they're new to the community in general, and so you're navigating that as well.
And new to how everything works. And that is a really a huge additional challenge for families that have come to the community as refugees. But again, those children are part of our community and are going to be in school with our children, and we really are happy to see their future too. And the other additional challenge for those families, honestly, is most of them have seen just incredible trauma coming out of war situations, and
toxic stress.
So toxic stress has been well researched that this for children, especially for babies growing up in homes and situations that are chaotic, where in many cases if parents have struggles with mental health issues or substance abuse, one parent in prison, any sort of situation like that, that on a kind of hourly, minute-by-minute basis, that child's defenses are heightened, and over time that really affects brain development and biology, and what those the challenges those kids will face when they get to school and in the future.
You have a neighborhood project. Talk about that.
We do. Well, we started a focus on particular geographic neighborhoods, knowing that particularly for the history of Charlottesville and where we're at, that there are some communities that have had worse experience with social services systems and organizations and need a little more encouragement to get involved. And it's a big deal to invite somebody that you don't know into your home and into your business. So we're just making an effort to have a deeper presence, to really be part of those communities and build those connections.
And as a whole, you serve Charlottesville,
Albemarle County, Charlottesville, and Fluvanna and Louisa counties, 325 or more families every year that we're working with.
So how is it funded, and if people want to help out on some level, how do they do that?
We're funded with a mix of public and private funds. We get great support from our local governments, which means our local citizens, and we're so appreciative of that support. But we also, to do what we do, we need private support, and we have a lot of individuals as well as foundations and companies that provide support. So we really welcome that. That really enhances what we're able to offer to the community's children and families.
Yeah, and you have opportunities for volunteering, but not so much in the home though, right? Because it's so important to be consistent.
That's right. That relationship, having a new person show up every time at somebody's house just wouldn't work. So both the education and training, the professionalism that's required of our staff is very important, but the consistency and that relationship is really important too. But we have teen socials and other events sometimes. We have need often for, we have community folks that do supply drives for us, so there are opportunities to volunteer and get involved, and we certainly welcome that.
John, this is wonderful work. Thank you for telling us about it today.
It's been wonderful talking with you, Terry.
Oh, I feel like I owe a lot of my success to Chip. And I feel like this program has brought me closer to my community and the people in it. So now I have this sense in my adulthood to give back to the community that I'm in.
I had 14 moms that graduated, and it was just awesome to see the whole family together and just to see the joy in seeing that team walk across the stage, showing people that you are there because you care, because you do want to make a difference.
That's it for this week. For WHTJ, I'm Terry Allard. Join us next time on Charlottesville Inside Out.
Charlottesville Inside Out is made possible thanks in part to its patrons, committed to supporting the people, places, and quality of life that uniquely define Charlottesville and its surroundings, and by viewers like you. Thank you.